Hey guys, go back to the channel, or if you're new, welcome. We get back into part 2 of Beck Reacts to Amber's live stream. So I did add a bunch of people to the video, so hopefully I did not miss anyone. If I did, please leave a comment down below and I will add you later. I do promise I will get to you eventually. It's just a bit of filling around and trying to make sure that the list updates so I don't miss anyone and I read all of the comments. But I will eventually add you, I do promise that. Let's get into the video and see what Beck is going to be talking about.
During our relationship, I lacked a lot of independence and self-agency. I did a lot for her, but I couldn't get myself to do anything for me. I was depressed, and it was only getting worse the longer our relationship went on.
That is a really good point, because a lot of people who are caretakers, especially for a long time, kind of lose their sense of self, and when they kind of lose that role, it's almost like they lose who they are as a person. They don't know anything about themselves because they focus so much on the person they were taking care of. And then you also add on Amber's personality type, where she degrades people's personalities and hobbies, so then Beck would also feel that on top of losing their sense of self.
She was dependent on me and wanted me to be dependent on her too. Codependence is hard to break out of. I slipped into it so quickly I didn't realize I had lost all agency for myself. And then once I was in it, it was too difficult to stand on my own again. I've seen people compare it to boiling a lobster or crab. You put them in the water first and slowly raise the heat so they don't realize they are being cooked alive.
That's kind of a good analogy, but at the same time just a terrible thought.
Things Amber admitted to. Number 1. She admitted to being mean and rude and talking down to me in videos and behind the camera, but she didn't admit that this was a form of public humiliation that I believe she used to control me and keep my self-esteem low.
The thing is, Amber is either going to argue whether or not it's intentional or it's just a joke, but neither one really works, because saying something unintentionally doesn't really mean you don't mean it. Usually it does, you just don't want to say it out loud, and as a joke, you need to have the right type of person for those jokes to land, and if your partner takes offense to that, well, obviously that's not the right type of joke for the right type of person. And there's also a clear distinction between a joke and an insult.
Number 2. Amber said that she was horrible to Destiny. No shocker there, but I do wonder why she kept saying she wasn't going to talk about Destiny in this live stream. I can only guess.
The thing is though, like, we don't need Amber or her ex-partners to confirm it, because we see it for what it is. We see the pattern of behavior and see that Amber has abused many exes or people that she has tried to date. Like, it's the same pattern over and over again. We just don't know how bad it gets until her exes expose her.
Number 3. Admits to buying love and attention from partners and friends, yet doesn't admit to financial abuse at all. Amber, there is a difference between being generous and holding things over people's heads as leverage because you paid for something.
Which is very true, because Amber says that she's a giving or selfless person, but if you're willing to give someone something in order to get their attention, that is a transaction. You are getting something out of it, which is their attention.
Number 4. Amber says that she went through my phone a lot because of trust issues, but then shows journal entries to, in her eyes, prove that I did read her journals.
Alright, let's get two things straight, shall we? First and foremost, Amber, your journals mean nothing. You read them yourself. You are a compulsive liar and a narcissist. You're gonna warp your own reality with your own delusions. Doesn't matter. It means nothing. Secondly, if you need to go through your partner's phone in order to make sure they're not cheating on you, the relationship is dead. You have zero trust. It's never gonna work out. Move on.
First, I never said that she didn't let me read any of her physical journals. I said that she wouldn't let me go through her phone because she said there were private journals on it.
Which makes no sense, because if Beck is supposed to have zero secrets, why are you hiding a private journal? Like, it makes you showing your other journals completely redundant.
Yet she says that I could read her journals anytime and she wouldn't have cared if I looked at her phone, but that I never really had asked her anyway. Number 5. She admits that she does not feel that I was abusive towards her. But then why do all of this, Amber?
Because a narcissistic person isn't going to take the blame completely. They're going to put some of the blame on you, even if it's just 1%.
Number 6. She admits to being manipulative toward me and others to get what she wants out of them.
And Amber has fully admitted that she only keeps people around because they do nice things for her.
Number 7. And finally, she admits that she shouldn't have asked me to drive during the times that I was physically and mentally ill. More on that later. At first glance, it may sound like she admitted to quite a few things, and she did, but she did not take real accountability for them. She spent the worst part of 3 hours talking about things she went through and only accepting the small things she felt weren't as bad to distract and minimize the impact of the bigger problems at hand.
Which is something that both Foodie and Amber do. Like, they'll either minimize it by taking one part of the argument and try to make that the whole argument, or they'll take a broad, generalized view of accountability. Like, yeah, sure, I was abusive. Okay, but what exactly did you do? Are you going to take accountability for that? And are you going to apologize for the things that you did? Or are you just going to say that you're abusive? Like, you can't just say, all right, I did abusive things. I'm sorry. Okay, well, you need to be a little bit more specific about what you did wrong and acknowledging the fact that you did something wrong.
Admitting to vague things like being controlling and manipulative, but not acknowledging that the impact of her being controlling of my time was me not being able to look for a job, save money, or even spend time with my dying mother. Amber continuously denied or straight up ignored the bigger issues or the details that didn't support her explanation for her behaviors. Things Amber denied/ignored. Number 1. She denied still talking about me after the breakup. Number 2. She denied asking me to send her the settlement inheritance money and me sending it to her for bills and other things she paid for. Number 3. She fully denied ever being financially abusive to anyone because of her infamous kindness and generosity. Number 4. Denied using a timer even though I said sometimes she did and sometimes she didn't. She only said this to make it sound like I wasn't telling the truth about her tracking the time for things I did.
I do want to stress the point that Amber was more so arguing about whether or not she was using an actual timer instead of setting time limits for a partner to spend time with their family or their friends. Like, she was getting the wrong point. Like, it doesn't matter whether or not you were using an app or you were tracking the time. You shouldn't have been doing either.
Number 5. She underestimated how much I helped her with her personal hygiene, saying that I only wiped her for 9 months and that I got her a bucket a couple times and only brushed her hair once. She also denies free bleeding, though I was under the impression she had admitted this before in her videos, but I have no idea which video it could be if she did.
I don't really see the importance of Amber having to admit she was free bleeding on other people's stuff. Like, I understand it is a little embarrassing, but at the same time, like, if you don't want to be called out for it, then don't free bleed on other people's shit.
Number 6. Denies leaving me with only a little bit of money for a U-Haul and implies that she did pay me for the live streams. Number 7. She ignores the serious allegations about her behavior towards Libby.
I mean, she can deny it as much as she wants, but she was saying some pretty off-brand shit to... I think she was 15 at the time, right? Like, Libby was 15 when Amber was saying those things. Not a good look, my dude.
Number 8. She ignores the chat asking her about getting physical with Jade.
Sounds about right.
Number 9. She ignores everything that had to do with feederism and her irresponsible involvement with feeders and making feeder content.
Dude, I'll say it, I don't care if I sound ignorant. If you're someone who is taking part in mukbangs by eating copious amounts of food, you to a degree are engaging in feederism. I don't care if it's for sexual purposes or not, you are in fact doing so.
Number 10. The last thing I'll mention here is that she gets asked what is the worst thing she did to me, and she replies with,
"The cruelest thing I ever said to Beck? God, I can't remember a lot of what happened, obviously, but let me think of something.
Let me think of something. I am 99% sure right now that she is not even thinking about the stuff that she's done to Beck. She is thinking about how long it is taking for her to think of something, because the longer it takes, the worse she looks.
It's not really what I said, it's just like what I did, like forcing them to like come home quicker and like being annoying about it, you know?
Yeah, that was the half-assed response I was thinking about.
If she truly believes that is the worst thing she put me through in the past 7 years, then she is more lost and twisted than I ever realized. Now, as I talked about the screenshots, I need to discuss the journals with you. The journals confused me at first. I barely remember her writing in them the majority of our relationship. She talks about it like she was sitting there reading her journals to me or handing them over whenever she added a new entry. I don't remember ever reading her physical journals. I remember seeing her write down her weigh-ins or goals, and I remember an essay she wrote that she wanted me to read. I also remember her using her journals for stickers and scrapbooking. But beyond that, I wasn't just sitting around and reading her journals for fun. I think it's odd that she's using journal entries to prove anything, and even more odd that it was to prove that she would have let me go through her phone according to her.
Not to mention, like, what would Amber have to journal about? Like, there is nothing for her to really talk about because she did nothing.
Especially when she lied about having 2 phones and then suddenly had both phones and has kept every single text message and photo ever.
Yeah, and that is something that Amber does like to go back and forth on a lot.
It is interesting that she brought the journals up because it reminded me that she had this online secret private journal on her phone and laptop that she says she had for years, probably back when she knew Casey and Crystal. And that was the journal she really never wanted me to see.
Which honestly, major red flags.
But obviously, I wasn't looking to read her journal. I had only asked to go through her phone because of how often she went through mine. I was like, why can't I go through your messages? Who are you talking to? And she would make excuses for why I couldn't look and just needed to trust her.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I can't trust you, so I have to go through your phone to see if you're cheating on me, but you have to trust me because I don't want you going through my phone because I got stuff to hide from you. Sounds about right.
Eventually, I just didn't care anymore. Next, let's talk about the mattress and bed bug situation. I brought this up in my last live stream as something I was gonna say to talk about later in the video. So of course she had to get ahead of the narrative, and that's fine. It wasn't important who said it first. Though I do want to point out this was a first-hand experience from my live stream of my memory being a little wonky. I know it can kind of make some people question my credibility, but I swear I'm not entirely jelly-brained.
Oh, you know, I think I know what Beck is talking about because I saw this part. They were kind of confused about a specific question they were talking about.
I may mess some things up, but I remember the big picture. Ming, what happened to the bed frame? What do you mean, like the bed frame?
Like that's what you brought up.
Yeah.
Wait, what do you
The
mean?
bed frame that you had to get rid of, you mentioned that.
Yeah, you mentioned it. You said you wanted to hold on to that. They're talking about like what you were talking about just a minute ago, where you were like,
I'm having a giant brain fart. Hey, wait, is it the one that we had bought together for her room?
You mentioned it.
This is kind of the thing I was talking about in the podcast. Like, it's so disorganized, and the two hosts don't know how to take anything seriously, like laughing and joking about something that should have a little bit more seriousness to it.
Oh, the bed frame. Oh, in her first apartment when we first met.
Yeah.
And she was moving out. Oh, I really want to tell you guys, but I've got some stuff that I'm holding on to just in case.
Alrighty, that's a little shady, but I will allow it.
So yes, it was about the bed bugs. While Amber was living in the townhouse, she had gotten bed bugs. This was after Destiny and her broke up, and we were seeing each other. The bed bugs could have come from the neighbors. They were horrible at the time, but it was impossible to know. However, Amber let it get bad and pretended not to notice. I had bites all over me. I think she probably did too, but maybe didn't want to admit it. I helped her get rid of them, quarantining her clothes and the mattress, and when she eventually moved in with Eric, Ricky, and I, she asked me to lie to them for her. At the time, I felt like I didn't have a choice because I didn't want her to be homeless, and she begged me not to tell them.
So she wants you to lie to your friends and risk potentially infecting them with bedbugs too, so that way she can get what she wants. Yep, that's Amber.
I cared about her, and I knew that if I said anything, they wouldn't have let her move in. Eventually, I did tell them the truth, though, and Ricky and Amber had a big fight about it. I should have never lied to them for Amber at the time.
Yeah, no, that's something I definitely agree with. Like, you shouldn't have done that because they have a right to know, and it's also something that could have spread to them as well.
Now I want to talk about something really serious with you guys. Talking about DV and SA is an incredibly sensitive topic to handle. While I am a victim of Amber's abuse, I am not a victim of either DV or SA by her hands. In this live stream, Amber makes outrageous claims against the people she's wronged and ignores others. She doubles down on her accusations against Casey with no hesitation because Casey dared to stand up against her. She ignores the allegations of hitting Jade and ignores being inappropriate with Libby. She tries to insinuate that I pressured her into a relationship for sex because I claimed before that she pressured me into a relationship when I wanted to take it slow. She's always turning accusations around and making them her own to point back at people.
I'm pretty sure I remember a video of Amber kind of jokingly talking about how they pressured Beck into a relationship, and to her it was a joke, like, oh, you know, it's a funny thing, which, no, it isn't. It's not funny. And what Amber is doing is called a Darvo technique. It's basically reversing the offender and the victim, so that way she's the victim and not the abuser.
On the day that I asked Amber to be my girlfriend, we were having a Netflix and chill type of date. I was really into the movie and Amber wanted to make out and cuddle. I told her I didn't want to in that moment because I was into the movie, and this started a fight between us. This was the fight that she essentially told me she had many people lined up who wanted to date her, and if I didn't hurry up, she would find somebody else. I did like her at the time, and I didn't want to lose her yet, so then I asked her to be my girlfriend.
Yeah, no, to me, like, that's a massive red flag. If someone was like, well, I could just find someone else if you don't hurry up and date me, I would immediately just be turned off 100%. I'd be like, all right, cool, find someone else, see you later, and I would leave.
Looking back on it, it's obvious she just wanted me to make it official as quickly as possible. After we started dating, the financial and economical abuse wasn't far behind. Economic abuse is a form of abuse when one person has control over the victim's access to economic resources, which diminishes the victim's capacity to support themselves and forces them to depend on the perpetrator financially. Amber didn't have her own bank account, and I allowed her to use mine and eventually join it officially. Amber had control of the joint account. Amber had control over her own private account. It was all Amber's money. She used paying for bills and buying food and gifts as leverage to get away with anything. This was enough in her mind to justify all the things I did for her and owe her more.
Which is straight up like just a shitty form of abuse, because it's like, Beck can't contribute unless they get a job, and then when they wanted to get a job, you would say that you couldn't do it on your own and you needed their help, so then they would stay home and not have a job, but then you would complain about them not having a job. One circular argument after another with Amber.
I took care of her because I cared about her and knew she couldn't do a lot of things herself. I cleaned up after her and the pets. I ran errands for her. I took her to appointments and restaurants and anywhere she wanted to go. I made her a huge part of my life and inner circle. I tried my best and did anything she wanted me to do. Meanwhile, she sees the relationship as her being taken advantage of because she paid for things, like paying the down payment on the car that I drove her around in. She bought food because she wanted it, and she paid the bills because she also lived there.
The more you hear about her, the more she sounds like a misogynistic man. Like, the only form of labor is one that brings monetary value into the house. Like, unpaid labor means nothing to her.
If I had a job, I would have been contributing. But she used the fact that she could afford it, and she needed me as reasoning for me to not get a job. And Amber used her paying for things that I needed to manipulate me into handing over the money for my mom's settlement. She says otherwise, but it was not left in the joint account. All of this to me shows a clear power imbalance in our relationship that just kept growing and growing.
And the thing is, Amber was really petty about it too. Like, oh, I need money for the Netflix and stuff like that. If Beck did not have the money and you did, you could have easily said, all right, pay me back when you can, or don't even worry about it. Like, I've got the money, it's perfectly fine. You were a big spender before, so now all of a sudden you're just not a big spender when it comes to your friends or people who don't want you touching them anymore.
On top of being financially controlled, I mentally wasn't in a healthy state of mind for most of our relationship. I was struggling with years of depression, and then when I finally tried to get help, the psychiatrist I was seeing misdiagnosed me and overmedicated me. I was on multiple medications, maybe 4 to 6 at one time. Mood stabilizers, anxiety meds, the combination and switching of medications had me completely out of it. I was bad before, but this was different. I was experiencing a lot of negative side effects, and Amber tried to minimize this by saying it was only 3 months.
It doesn't matter if it was 3 months or 3 years, like the shit that Beck was going through during that time was incredibly bad, and everyone but Amber could see it.
I don't know exactly when I started taking the medicine, but it was the longer part of 2019, I believe. She also tries to minimize the effects of my kidneys shutting down.
The renal failure was very, very thankfully short-lived. So it was very quick, thankfully, because that was also very, very worrisome.
God, that acting is so dry. Like, I've seen better acting in adult films.
These two things overlapped, but both had long-lasting effects. The doctors eventually wanted to do blood work because they were considering putting me on lithium, and that's when they found out that I was going into kidney failure. After more testing, they found it was the metformin causing it, and I was able to recover, but it wasn't quickly.
And that in itself would be a very terrifying thing for Beck to have to go through. Imagine worrying about potentially having kidney failure because of a medication you were put on.
After Amber's cancer scare and hysterectomy, I was the one who took care of her while she was healing. And yes, I was the one who wiped her. But I wiped her plenty before that. I believe from sometime in 2019 to June 2021 when we broke up. Before I started wiping her, she would use washcloths to wipe.
Oh god, not this story. I have heard this way too many times in the past week.
She would set them on the corner of the sink, and then she would turn herself around to wipe herself on it. And then she would throw them away. Our roommates started to notice that their late mother's washcloths were disappearing.
And that right there just proves how much of a piece of shit someone can be. Like, how can you do that to someone's late mother's washcloths? Something they obviously wanted to keep, and you just wipe your ass on that? Like, feral.
And they confronted her about it, and she wanted me to lie to them for her, but I didn't. She ended up buying more washcloths for herself, and instead of throwing them away, she had me wash them in the sink and then put them in the washer.
Dude, Beck is way better than me because I would never do that. Like, straight up, if your ass is 500 pounds and you can't wipe your own ass, well, turn around, I'm getting a gurney and I'm blowing that shit off.
Wiping ended up being the lesser of two evils at the time. Amber also said that I only brought her a bucket a couple of times. And that is true, it only happened a couple of times. But I did help her get spots she couldn't reach. And in between the bucket baths, she just didn't shower. I also didn't only brush her hair once either. It needed to be brushed every few months. I'm only saying all of this now because she does not live in the same reality. I'm hoping maybe this will be enough to finally reach her. She and some others don't realize that you don't wipe someone and groom someone that you don't care for.
No, that is straight up 100% truth. Either you genuinely care about that person, or you're getting paid to do so. There is no in between.
I didn't do those things for money. I did them to help her be more comfortable, to protect her dignity as much as I could. I lied for her and defended her and kept her alive. Now she shows her respect and gratitude for me by talking badly about me repeatedly. Even in the chaos of everything she said, she still had time to read chats saying we both had hygiene issues and saying that she did gross things for me too. Me not showering for a couple extra days because I was depressed and you popping my pimples are not the same as me wiping you and cleaning your ankles.
Those two things are very different things. Like, Beck not showering because they were so depressed that they couldn't get up and shower is not the same thing as you being 500 pounds and not being able to shower. Like, very different things. And also the pimple thing, like, most couples do that for each other.
Amber doesn't want to say that she is an abuser. I am saying that. She wants to claim this diagnosis and that diagnosis, but the diagnosis doesn't matter. Her self-awareness is non-existent. Everyone has noticed that she takes zero accountability or responsibility when in private.
Just like how she takes zero accountability in public too.
She will beg and barter and manipulate until everyone sees it the way that she sees it. She can't do all of that publicly, and no abuser wants their abuse to be aired out. Amber, I just wanted you to finally take some accountability for the shit you've done. If I really wanted to humiliate and embarrass you, I would have just done this years ago. The only way to hold you accountable is publicly, bringing awareness to the abuse and having your audience see between the cracks. Your public live stream wasn't about an apology or healing. It wasn't about breaking your silence. It was about silencing others, especially me.
Oh, 100%. Like, Beck is on point with that. Not even a single doubt in my mind.
You did not take this seriously. It is inappropriate to laugh when you are talking about other people's trauma, especially when you're the one who caused it. I can laugh about my trauma with friends, but making fun of what your victims have experienced is insensitive and weird.
It's also kind of like a bit of a power trip too. Like, Amber can do one more thing just to get over Beck because Beck's not playing ball, and Amber thought Beck wasn't going to do anything about it, except they did, and now Amber isn't liking it.
You are trying to convince everyone that I did just as much to you as you've done to me, and since you don't feel abused by me, then I should not feel abused by you. But the difference is, I do feel abused by you, Amber, because you abused me, and you've abused other girlfriends in the past too.
Mate, at this point, I'm not even commentating anymore. I'm just on Beck's side. Beck, get it.
Name the worst thing I did to you. Tell me what it is so I can take accountability for it if it was so bad. Because all you've said about me is that I'm a liar and use you for money.
Which is bullshit, because Beck was the equivalent of a caretaker. Like, if you didn't want Beck doing all these things for you, well then you should have let them have a job.
Just because you feel attacked by my perspective doesn't make it a lie. And I wouldn't have dealt with so much if I was only with you for the money. And still to this day, you have the audacity to say that the worst thing you've put me through was forcing me to spend time with you? It is laughable if it wasn't so sad. The funny part is you are kind of right. Forcing me to spend all my time with you kept me from my mom while she was dying.
Not only just that, like, actively keeping you away from anything and everything you love. Like, not just your mom, your friends, your hobbies, your ability to just have a rest and just have some time by yourself. Which is a form of abuse, and it's the same thing with sleep deprivation as well. Like, she forced Beck to stay up for 24 hours, but then refused to get back on a schedule, keeping Beck up even longer.
These were the darkest moments of my life. I look back on them now and wish I could slap myself awake from a nightmare. I don't know why I let her control me so much. I wish I would have just run away and told her no. I have so many regrets from that time, but she knew what she was doing. She knew she was manipulating me into isolating myself from my own family, begging me to spend time with her instead of my mom, causing rifts between us in the very little time I had left with her. I hate that because of Amber and her hold on me, I wasn't there for my mom the way I wanted to be. I hate that I don't remember our last Christmas together. I hate that she cried for me when she was losing so much.
Which is a genuinely heartbreaking thing, and like, I have gone through something like this in my past, not with my own mother, but with my uncle, who was very close with. And because of the situation, I wasn't able to spend time with him while he was alive, and now that he's gone, I will never get that time back. And it is different from, you know, a nephew and an uncle and a mother and, you know, their child, but it does have a similar concept, and I still have genuine malice in my heart for the people who caused that rift to stop me from being able to see him, and now that he's gone, I don't think I'll ever get over it. And I don't want any harm to come to those people, but at the same time, if anything were to happen, I wouldn't feel empathy for them. And I'm willing to bet that even if something does happen to Amber, Beck would still have some sort of genuine empathy for them. So, like, they are way better than I am as a person, because I don't have that love for someone. I could never have that type of energy for someone I genuinely have a disdain for.
Abuse changes people. It can turn you into someone completely unrecognizable. It could take years for you to find yourself again and to make sense of what was even happening. To those of you who haven't experienced something like this before, I hope that you can see this as a tale of caution. And if you have experienced something like this similarly, then I hope this helps you feel less alone. I hope that my mom is out there watching and seeing the changes I've made and is feeling peace knowing that I am safe, happy, and loved. I hope that she is proud of me for sticking up for myself and for speaking out against Amber. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you when I see you.
Alrighty guys, from the end of the video, thank you for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed, and hopefully I got every single person for the new updated video. If not, please leave a comment down below. I will update it, I promise. But again, thank you for watching, and hopefully get to see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.